what would be your title?
Shit.
Consider this being filmed and potentially in the episode as well. So, right.
Director
of Masters HQ. Okay, that's who we've got today, team. We've got Director of Masters HQ, Mel Robinson. Mel, welcome.
Thank you.
I've got when I contacted you about doing an interview, I didn't really know what direction I want this to take, but I guess I, and probably many, are fascinated by this surge of the Masters community and in particular Masters comps. But you've been around it for a lot longer than I have, these Masters comps. So can you, when was the first Masters event that you were involved in?
First Masters event.
As an athlete even?
Yeah, so Masters League, I signed up and I just seen it on social media. I'm like, oh, what's this? And I didn't have anything to do with any Masters at that point.
Okay.
So I signed up and thought I'll just see how I go.
Right.
And because sometimes you don't know where you're at within the community. So I did really well and sort of made it through the final and it was really awesome.
Did you compete? So when you started in CrossFit, were you a master when you found CrossFit? Or did you make, so you made that transition over the time of doing CrossFit.
Yeah.
How many years had you done CrossFit before you sort of found yourself qualifying as a master in terms of the age categories that they offer?
Maybe 4 years.
Okay. They are getting lower and lower, aren't they, the categories?
Yep, so, you've made it lower again.
Okay, cool. So, hey, look, before we dive into some, some general topics that we might cover. So you're the director of the event we just talked about, the Masters HQ final and the event in general. Talk to me about this event. First of all, when is the final and what needed to happen for people to get to the final?
So first of all, the final is October 25th, 26th and 27th, so it's a 3-day event.
Wow.
On the Gold Coast.
Okay.
So it's not actually on the Gold Coast, it's in Logan.
Yeah,
so in Queensland,
right, yeah.
Not far from Gold Coast. The event will be 2 days at an arena, so at Logan Metro Sports Centre, and then day 3 is off-site, so it's...
Are they meant to know that? Or?
Yeah, they know.
Okay,
but
cool.
They don't know what the events are, so Logan has a lot of... some of the surrounding towns have a lot of really cool outdoor areas that we can utilise.
I see.
So we're going to have a mix of a few things.
Definitely take note, I imagine, if you're doing that event. Now, that's the 3-day event. Yep. What's before that? There's a semi-final?
Yep, so it starts off with an online. So it's our online's a little bit different to anything else. So when we created Masters HQ, we wanted to really take in mind our Masters recovery and so forth, and there's so many other events going on. We wanted to make sure they had enough recovery in between because they go all out.
Right.
So
there's a fair gap between the online and the final. Well, also not a fair gap, but
what I mean by that is the event runs for 6 weeks.
Yes. Okay.
And it's one workout every 2 weeks.
Right.
So they do their workout and then they've got 2 weeks to recover before they have to go again.
Did you always run it like that, or did you? Okay, so
that's been the idea from the beginning. So it's just very thought through. Everything we do has a lot of thought that goes into it, and we do it for a certain reason. So they have 2 weeks, and they can do it twice, 3 times if they want, but they have enough recovery to go again in 2 weeks. So there's 3 releases total, but often those releases might be a part A, B, and C.
I remember
so they're
seeing them this year. There was several parts to each workout.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to me that the Masters competition scene has grown so much, and I think I said to you before off air that it feels to me like the ratio of Masters that would like to compete is bigger than the ratio of general CrossFitters that would like to compete, and I have no data to back that up whatsoever. But then you said to me, I just think they're louder about it, which I would totally agree.
And they're excited.
Yeah.
They really celebrate what they can do because it's incredible. Like I said to you before, I was going through the semi-final invites, and we've got a 70-year-old that did a 50-kilo clean and jerk. And I look at that and it just blows my mind.
Yep.
So they're excited to be able to do what they do. So they make it known. And they just want to be able to do what they do.
They definitely... Again, this is quite anecdotal from the people that I have on things like social media. Definitely, they tend to wear that like being a Masters competitor with such a badge of honour.
Right,
It's like,
absolutely.
hey, I am Master and
Yeah.
I am part of this little. There's almost a little clique within CrossFit.
It's really special.
It is, and I'm really interested by it. So, when did Masters HQ start? When was that event?
February last year.
So that's the first time you guys.
So this
ran
is
that.
our second year.
Okay.
Yeah, first year was really successful. We had a huge sign up straight up, and we had a really successful year. It was really awesome.
So it's a specialised event for Masters. My experience with Masters comps, I can think of one event where I went to where it was just Masters doing it, but most gyms, they run a competition and they have a Masters category. Was it purely demand that made you guys think of this event, or was it more like, hey, we feel like these guys deserve their own day for themselves or event to themselves?
So there is other competitions out there, but there was a lot of people that weren't signing up due to different reasons, and there was a huge demand. There was a lot of people saying to me, you need to do this, you need to do this, and I was always like, oh, no. And then it got to the point, Rob said to me, let's do it, we'll do it together, and it was a no-brainer with his programming, his experience, and then what I can offer as well from my experiences. It was the perfect balance of everything. So
that's Rob you're referring to is Rob Downton, the owner of Raw Strength and Conditioning.
so he does all the programming
and that's a real feather in the event's cap, because
Absolutely.
Rob's obviously super experienced. He's got so many regionals and games athletes that he's coached before. He's got a Masters stream, doesn't he, in Raw Strength and Conditioning?
Yep.
So it's great that he's doing the programming. He has an excellent understanding of that. I didn't necessarily want to speak too much about how to train as a master, because there's other authorities on that, but there's no doubt that you've already talked about the timing of the events, but also the programming takes into consideration where these people are at as athletes. What's a key aspect of the programming? And I know that would be Rob's jam more so, but what's a cornerstone of a Masters event in terms of its programming?
Just keeping it specific for those guys so everybody can do it, and it's the weights match up to the categories and the age groups, so we, as they get older, we scale things down, but we still challenge them at the same time. So not giving them workouts where, this is too easy, we can actually manage this. It's making sure we're still challenging them, but still making it
obtainable.
Everybody,
It's funny, I think that a lot of people, when programming for Masters, often under-program.
Exactly.
And that's probably the error I've seen more than over-program. It's like, actually, this person can RX everything and can do the open as RX'd.
Yeah, they're incredible.
So talk to me about, and you don't have to name the competition, or maybe it was something you're involved in, but give me an example of when that's taken place. Like, have you seen some workouts where it's just like, this is too easy for these folks?
Probably not personally. I just hear a lot of feedback. So I have a lot of people message and email saying, we want to be challenged. We want to be able to do what we do best. They train and they learn all these skills, and then they don't get to use it. They don't get to utilize it. So
there's like a fallacy.
Being able to shine.
There's like a fallacy, and if we step back and view just CrossFit in general, that like, you're over 50, so it'd be dangerous to teach you how to do a muscle up, and it's like that's actually not the case.
It's a lot of people's goals still at 50, 60-year-old. Their goal is to be doing muscle ups. Like, why take that away from them? If they learn it and then they can't use it.
So I guess the CrossFit Games and the CrossFit Open certainly acknowledges Masters by having they're at the games, and then in the Open there's scaled workouts for them, but sometimes they're not that scaled depending on the age category. I wanted to ask you, how many different categories of Masters do you think you need to have in a Masters competition? I guess it depends on sign-ups and things like that, but what would your general...
Do you mean in terms of like RX and scale?
No, sorry,
age.
Okay,
so I think the 5-year increments work really well.
Okay.
Yep. Ideally, eventually we would like to maybe split the 60 to 64 and then 65 to 70, but numbers, like
I understand.
It doesn't work.
And you're going to end up with 10 categories if you're not careful.
It becomes a logistical nightmare if you have too many. But we start at 30 to 34 and then 35 to 39. So it gives those guys at 30 the opportunity to compete against people their own age as well.
Was a lot of people would probably think 30, geez, that's young to call a master. Was there some deliberation on that decision to... And what was the end logic of it? And I'm not disagreeing with it, but it's like I know that the reaction from a lot of people would be 30. So, like I'm 30, I just turned 30, and I sort of don't want to be called a master. But then I stopped myself and I'm like, actually being called a master is no shame whatsoever. We'll talk about that in a moment. So, yes, tell me about 30 as a master.
You know, when you hit 30, things change.
Yeah.
So recovery might be different. You might have to work a little bit harder to be at the same level as somebody in their 20s.
Yep.
So it's just giving them the opportunity to do the same thing, compete against people their own age and not having to go up against the 20-year-olds. And, you know, it just adds that little bit of difference as well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, this year at the Sanctional that you and me just attended, the Down Under Championship, there's people competing individually in their 40s, and so, you know, they've still got lots of capacity. Absolutely. But as you spoke about, it can be things like recovery time and that. Injury,
they might have niggling things that they don't have when they're in their 20s, or not as common in their 20s.
Yep.
So yeah.
Okay, so there's something that I wanted you to just speak to, which this is sort of a question without notice, but what Masters competitions like this are doing are pretty much redefining to a degree what the fitness landscape is for somebody who's over 35 or 40.
Yep.
Do you think the competitors who are competing in these things, do you think they know that they're doing that, or do you think they're purely just throwing down because they like to throw down, or do they understand that they're changing the way things are viewed?
And that's why they get so excited about these competitions.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's huge. They know that they're up against people their own age and ability, and everyone's dealing with the same things. And so I think that's why they celebrate so much what they're doing, because they're all trying to manage their bodies and age and still be able to do what they do. So
yeah, I mean, as like most CrossFitters, and I mean this to any CrossFitter, are automatically leaders within our society of health and fitness. Like they're in the top echelon, top 0.001% or whatever. But the Masters athlete is that's even smaller. So they become like great people to aspire to be like. And I get the sense that they recognise that.
Absolutely. Like their families look up to them and are like, oh my God, look what my mum's doing, my dad's doing. And like it's a huge inspiration.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a topic I'd like to ask you about, which is, we talked about not getting 50-year-olds to do muscle-ups and how that's somewhat of a fallacy and whatnot. What about have you found in competitions you've been involved in that certain athletes, because they've spent 50 years of their life doing something else before CrossFit, there's some like movements that are legitimately like, whoa, that's a bad position, or it's like, you actually can't get overhead or whatever it is. How do you take that into consideration, or have you been faced with that scenario at all?
I guess when it comes to our competitions, if it's a live competition, we always chat to our athletes and say if there's something that you can't fully lock out because you've got a dodgy elbow or something, or you can't...
From a car crash that happened like 30 years ago or whatever.
So always let us know and we work around that. You know, some guys, our mobility, so some movements, they might be able to break it into two, so they power snatch and then they go down into a squat. There's things that we do and allow them to do.
To make sure that they stay in play.
Absolutely.
I guess it comes down to clever programming, if that makes sense.
And just being aware of what they might struggle with and just making the program in line with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so like Masters HQ is an international competition.
Yeah.
What type of response have you got from first of all, the Australian community and then the international community?
Yeah.
I know it's only your second year, so you know better than anyone that these things take time.
Yeah.
What was the response this
year?
So
eventually, like our goal was to go global like within 5 years. Last year we had some people from other countries join. We had someone come from Bali to our final, which was really cool. 60-year-old, travelled all the way to Australia for our final. It was incredible. She's from CrossFit Wanderlust. So that blows my mind, that stuff. This year, I guess we had a different opportunity, something that I didn't expect. I had people from the IF3 contact me and say, we want to bring Masters in, will you host the World Championship? And absolutely, absolutely gives our Australian guys, opportunity to throw down against people from all over the world. So it just puts them on the big stage with people, not just within their own country, but from everywhere, and it's just opens up that whole community even more. So it's been huge, and it's just, I just sort of sit back and it just drives itself, and I'm just like, yep, cool, yep, and I just.
So it's somewhat like, how do I put this? Because these events are never like this. Is it somewhat of a more the lower stress event that you've been involved in because of the amount of support that it's getting from the community?
I don't find it stressful at all. I wake up every day excited.
That's cool.
Every day. It's a lot of work,
Yep.
and sometimes I work all day planning, but I love it. I love it, and the people are incredible. So the messages I get and the support is just, it's amazing. So it's never a stress. It's just a lot of work,
That's
but
cool.
I'm happy every second is worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I was mulling over this the other day. If we're calling a Master 30 plus now, which is what your competition does, and I'm more than happy to go with that for the moment, or I don't have any other authority to tell me not to. The reality is most people aren't finding CrossFit. Some are finding it in their teens, but that means that most people, if they want to compete, they've got 10 years as a non-master between 20 and 30, and then they've got the rest of their life, let's call it 30 to 70 as a master. So 80% of your competitive window is actually as a master. That's the logic I'm going with right now. So I guess where I'm going now is there's a real business opportunity and marketing strategy for affiliates to promote this type of thing internally and then also externally, to be like, hey, for those of you that like a competition or competitive aspect to an endeavor, like CrossFit still offers that deep within your life, whereas I was footy originally. Footy's over at 30, unless you're a professional and you're getting looked after. So what could box owners do? Like, how do they approach that thing?
Just really promote it to their masters and get involved, because it helps them within their own community and helps their affiliate build, and it just builds that community feel, that community vibe. Like, masters have this real community, from what I've seen and heard and what I experienced myself. It's community based. That is number one.
Yes.
Competition, yes, it's important. But the community aspect of it is it's huge.
Okay.
Outweighs
anything
else.
Really. Yeah. It feels like, again, I'm going a lot by feel in this episode, I feel. To me, it does feel like a lot of masters are attracted to certain gyms. Like I associate, we're in South Wharf today because that's the gym that you've got an event in very shortly. But it does feel like that gym, there's a really great swag of masters from that gym. Is that how it sort of works? Like, you're noticing that certain gyms seem to have a contingent of this?
Absolutely.
So what do you reckon these guys are doing that's making that the case?
So they just really get around each other and they promote it, and they have a sense of being like, how to answer this question properly. So
I can edit anything, by the way.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like,
no. For the moment, we'll roll with it.
So
it's not an easy question, because I know that you're not, you're close to this gym, but you're not here all the time. But it definitely, every time that I've seen a Masters competition, it just feels like South Wharf pops up as always having a team, or always having multiple individuals.
Do you know a lot of the trainers? Sonia DeRose in particular, she's a Masters athlete, and she loves what the Masters community offers and what these events bring to the Masters. So she is a huge inspiration for a lot of people as well, and she promotes it a lot. So people want to get around, and they've got a huge following of Masters here. She promotes events here, so training and open workouts. So during our online, she'll be like, okay, Friday Night Lights, and
for the actual event,
people come together and they want to be a part of each other and throw down together, and so it's huge. It builds that Masters community, so within their box and surrounds. So that's something that affiliates can do also, is during the online Friday Night Lights, whether it's once or twice. We do it at Perfect as well, not so much this year because I've been in Sydney and so forth. There's been other things, but just getting people together for those Friday Night Lights and training sessions and so forth, that's just what really builds that Masters community within those boxes as well.
So one last topic I'd like to cover, and you've made me think of it based on the way you just answered that. Sonia, who's the head coach here, she's a master. How important is the presence of Masters coaches? Not as in like a person who specialises in Masters, although there are things like the CrossFit Masters course which would allow someone to do that, but it seems like coaching is a young person's thing for the most part. I just say that most coaches are under a certain age, but it's, I guess, if we've got a coach which is a master and heavily identifies as a master, particularly in one of the older categories, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And perhaps the reason that it's so well entrenched here is because of Sonia being who she is.
Yeah. And it's passion. Like, you get your masters that are coaches, and they are as passionate as everybody else that's coming and wanting to do that. So passion's a huge thing, and people feed off that. People want to be around people like that. So if you love it and feed off that, everybody else just is. Everyone else is the same. It is. It's contagious. So, all of our state reps, in every state we have a state representative, and you know, some of these guys are at the highest level within the masters community. So we've got some that are competed, like Ryan Woodall, for example, in WA. He competed at sanctionals as a master, and just like Dominic, he's incredible. So these are the people that are ahead of these affiliates, and people just are inspired by those. I agree. Yeah, it's that passion and that love that feeds through.
So you guys are turning the tide, I believe, on the term master. I don't know, someone's probably already written an article or something like that that says like masters isn't a dirty word, but I really feel like you guys are starting to change it in, as people like Ryan Woodall especially, and Vicky Weber and these elites. Yeah. From a practical point of view, talk to me about what the affiliates, if I was an affiliate owner right now listening and I'm like, hey, I actually want to get involved in Masters HQ, what should I look out for in the future? I know the finals probably, this year's event is, I guess it's settled in terms of who's going to the final.
So we have our online, then our semis in every state, and then top two go through the final. So that's pretty much well underway. What
can we expect for 2020 then, I guess?
So 2020, we start off with a throwdown, a partner throwdown. It's fun. It's getting around everybody. Each state has a throwdown.
So that's just that's not necessarily towards the Masters HQ final. No, it's just an event.
It's an introduction to the year. Cool. And everybody inviting new people to come in, and meeting everyone and just becoming a part of the community. So that's the start off. That's generally late Jan, early Feb.
And you guys are going to run that with all the categories we just spoke about?
It's generally a 10-year bracket. So male or female.
Yes.
And it's within a 10-year bracket. You can drop down if you're older, but you have to compete in the younger category.
I'll be interested, the changes to the CrossFit Games format from this year, has that helped or hindered your ability to get people to do Masters HQ?
It's helped.
Okay.
It's really special for them to have these opportunities, because you know it's so hard now with top 10. They're the only ones that go through. This gives them another opportunity. So all these Masters comp just gives them other opportunities. It puts their training, they work so hard all year, and then for some of them that want to be competitive, it just gives them something a goal and something to work towards. What was the vibe from the Masters community on that top 10 change? Was there did you get a sense? Yeah, it's obviously harder to qualify. Yeah. Some people were going for just top 20 last year, and then they might have just made it in, or they might have just missed. This year, like it's top 10, like it's really tricky. And I've got a close friend who finished 12th. Put everything in, and it's heartbreaking. Yeah, so like last year she would have made her dream. Do you know what I mean? I think one of the things that, and it will take time, but this is just the reality, that changes to the CrossFit Games are making things like Masters HQ more appealing. And in my opinion, that's sort of the whole point of them. Like more and more people like yourself. Yeah, it's more opportunity for people to run events, for people to be part of events, and for not to sort of see, the games is the only way as a master I can compete. Like it's like a big stage that's a little bit different. Well, the way you guys are going, then maybe there'll be another big stage pretty soon. So, mate, is there anything else that I should touch on and ask you? Because this has been fascinating for me, but I feel like it's been quick. What else do you want to say about this? Because I feel like we're going to touch base very soon, like in the next 6 to 12 months, because you'll have a new event on the rise or something like that. Like it seems to be growing at a rate of knots. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what else to talk about, really. I suppose, like, we just want people to see that there's something pretty special on the cards here. Yeah. Like, we always wanted to be, when we created Masters HQ, we wanted to be that fallback. So if you didn't make it to that big stage, like, it's okay. Yep. Like, you've still got this, and it's the competitors that are competing this year especially, last year we had some amazing athletes, and this year again, it's just the caliber of athlete competing is just
so high.
It's incredible. We've got women hang cleaning close to 100 kilos. Like, it's just, it's amazing.
This is not a scales competition. That's how people.
Yeah.
Sorry. I mean, but like people shouldn't necessarily view this as like masters. Like no. I'm advanced.
Yeah.
It's like you can be advanced,
this is advanced
and be a masters at the
we
same time.
cater for everybody, and we've got the two where if you're still learning, we don't want them to rush into that advanced. Like, take that time. Like, they need years to be able to get to that next level. So there's no rush.
Sure.
And then we have the category that just caters for everybody at the highest level, and that's what pushes people to work towards their goal and get better as well. So it really,
special.
It really is. Yeah.
Guys, that'll do us for today. You sound relieved to be over.
Oh no.
Oh, good. I thought I just had a massive sigh. Hey, I actually I knew it beforehand, but to speak to Mel today, it just feels to me like this is actually going to be a pretty powerful thing. If it's not
powerful.
already.
Powerful is a huge word for what we do and what we offer.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
I can't really see a sport that is more open and promoting of masters health than what this sport is. So I can't wait to see where this goes. And this is going to be soon enough like the majority of CrossFit sort of competitions are going to end up being masters, because you've got to be under 30 to not be one. So we'll see how we go. Cool. All right, well, thanks for joining us, mate.
Ed.
Thanks, Dean.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Very good. I meant to say pounds to kilos. Cool, we're going to put
It's all
that
about
in too.
Masters HQ.
Damn it.
Yeah, pounds to kilos.
Damn it.